Welcome to Empower Wyandotte. I'm your host, Jessica Schmidtberger, a third-year doctoral occupational therapy student at the University of Kansas Medical Center in Kansas City, Kansas. In this space, we jump into meaningful conversations about the systems around us and what's affecting health in our community so we can step more confidently into conversations and action in our own communities. Today, we have Vanessa Matt, a community resource navigator at Crosslines Community Outreach, an organization serving people affected by poverty in Kansas City, Kansas, on the podcast. Vanessa has her bachelor's degree in social work, and she's currently working toward her master's. And she's here to talk about what it looks like to use evidence-based strategies to support street outreach efforts with individuals living outside, and what we can do as community members to support those efforts. At the end of this episode, I'll provide some resources and information that connects this discussion with evidence so we can all move forward from this conversation confident in what we learn. Thanks for being here. So as a community resource navigator, you are navigating resources in our community with folks with a super wide variety of lived experiences, mostly of homelessness and like housing insecurity, food insecurity. You're connecting people with resources in our community and like government resources. And then another big part of what you're doing here is street outreach. And I would just love to hear a little bit about what an outreach experience looks like. I know that you go out with the fire department, the police department, and yeah, I just want to hear more about what street outreach means and looks like from your perspectives.
Yeah, so the goal of street outreach is just to reach people that are experiencing homelessness that are not necessarily coming to our campus or our site where we're providing services, and just really just trying to educate people of resources that are available in the community and work on accessing housing services. Like you mentioned, we go with other providers. So if there are other needs, we try to address them.
Sure.
And refer based on their needs. So there's usually two types of outreach. Type one, it's mostly focused on basic needs like providing supplies that could include like food, water, hygiene, etc.
That feels like more like traditional outreach, kind of meeting needs, like meeting basic needs for people, like where they're at, providing things for people.
Yeah, it's just the style of outreach, right? And so there's groups of people that do street outreach and they just want to make sure that people are being fed, people are getting
like
supplies,
staying as warm as they can.
Just helping them survive, really. And then the type two, which is primarily what we focus on, progressive engagement, which is pretty much having like very intentional conversation, problem solving conversations, and really trying to create a plan for them to help them navigate like next steps for them to access viable services
and ongoing services, connecting people, building rapport with people. I know that's a big thing that you've talked about, because a lot of times people can't come in for whatever reason to your organization, to your office, and you being able to go out and build those relationships still, even though people can't come to you for whatever reason, be it transportation or lack of knowledge of the resource, anything along those lines. You can go out, enter into people's spaces, which I also want to hear a little bit more about.
Sure.
Really, maybe briefly, but what is that like, entering into people's safe space?
Yeah, so just being very mindful that these are people's like living spaces. Just I always perceive it as like, how would you like somebody to approach your house? Like they don't have barricades or walls, whatever, they're not inside, they're outside. They literally have just, in some cases, just tents, and sometimes they don't have anything. They just have a sleeping area, right? And so every time, kind of like best practice whenever we are approaching camps is making sure that we are announcing ourselves and being very aware of people's inclination to engage with us. And if we see that people are not wanting to engage with us, we want to make sure that we are respecting their spaces. So like I said, we want to make sure whenever we get to a camp, we announce ourselves. Usually we say hello, is anybody home? And we usually provide our names and who we're with. So I would come in and I would say, I'm Vanessa, I'm with Crosslines. We're just out doing street outreach. And and
then you're like, are you interested in housing? Are you interested in getting an ID? Like talking through kind of what you're there to provide so that people are aware.
Yeah. And really I go in there just introducing myself and not going in like, I try not to go in hard and overwhelm people. So I try to have like just a regular conversation in some cases and just give a outline on some of the services that we provide, and then let the conversation kind of go from there. If they want to share their stories, if they are interested in engaging, then that's kind of how we move at that pace. So that's just being mindful about knowing that these are people's homes that we're stepping into.
Yeah. I know that could be probably kind of controversial as far as what the boundaries are, but I think what you're talking about as far as respecting boundaries go builds a lot of trust and a lot of respect, like mutual respect between parties as an organization and as people who are having whatever experiences and like living in whatever spaces. So
just I think the biggest thing, like the biggest takeaway is just like read body language, be very observant. Like you have to be very aware of your surroundings. And like whenever outreach workers or providers are going out, their safety is number one. So if there's anything that is like just off, it's better to just kind of step away from the space. So, and then just listen to them. Like if they don't want to engage, they have the right to disengage and ignore. And if they don't want to, maybe it's not a good day, and that's okay. You can come back.
We're not always interested in or motivated in.
When people come knocking at your door, if you don't want to answer, you don't have to, right? And so I think it's just paying attention to those cues is really important.
Can you tell us about a time where outreach led to a client receiving services, or like really followed the trajectory of what you're talking about with this progressive type 2 outreach style?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've got several stories, but maybe right now I'm currently working with a client that I've been outreaching for almost 2 years. So I guess he would be perceived by some people as a difficult client, but I have been persistent. I've given him like space and gaps of times where I haven't engaged, just to kind of give him, that option of like think about, and just maybe even helping him be more ready. Because that's another thing, is that just because we believe that people deserve housing doesn't mean that they're all ready for housing. So we also have to be mindful about, making sure that the person also wants the service and not impose those things on people. And so I have a person right now that I've been working with for like 2 years, and recently one of his siblings that he was homeless with passed away. Now, after I know there's a long time of engagement, he is now working on housing pieces. He's about to
that built relationship. Seeing that
he trusts
this real thing happened in my life. And
he's applying for Social Security, and hopefully he'll be receiving that, and that will open up opportunities and options for housing. We've filled out applications for housing now. So my goal is that hopefully sometime this year he'll get housed. I don't really have a timeline on like how, but like I'm.
And I know a big focus for you too as a social worker is it's not just your goal, like that is his goal too.
Absolutely.
From the conversations that we've had about this client leading up to now. It's like, okay, what do you want? Letting the client take the lead too has been a really big focus in this specific case. And then just saying like, okay, since that's your goal, we're going to do everything that we can to keep working toward it. And here are some practical steps that we're going to take. Kind of switching gears a little bit, you are a really active member of your community as far as being an advocate goes, and being an ally in these situations with folks who are just experiencing a lot of barriers to even basic needs. And I want to hear your take on what it means to be an ally, or what it means to be an advocate.
So being an ally for me, it means to make sure that I'm showing up for people that am working with, and also support their belief systems of, specifically in the realm that I work with. I want to make sure that I am providing pretty much a support system for the people that I serve. So if I know that there are some opportunities for support, as far as like, for instance, an example that I can think of right now, immigration is a big issue nationally, and it's affecting every community in different ways. And so I know that the people that I serve are also being affected by immigration.
In the same way that the greater population of Kansas City is. Or like, housing status doesn't change that. Yeah.
Exactly. And so just making sure that I am providing education, information about those specific like topics to the population that I work with, and just the community that I work in. And that kind of goes hand in hand with advocacy, right? And just taking the initiative and the extra step every time to provide good and factual information, because there's a lot of disinformation also that is out in the community. There's a lot of fear mongering and stuff like that. And so just
word travels and we don't know what we can believe or what we should believe.
So making sure, that I'm providing factual information.
Like supported by evidence, supported by what's actually going on.
Absolutely. And then whenever, there's opportunities to share the work that I do in spaces that people might not be very knowledgeable about. I think that I do try to step up in those situations and just provide insight, because sometimes people don't know what they don't know. So if people are not talking about the work that we do and the people that we serve,
specifically homelessness, like what it means to live outside.
Exactly. And so as experts of the work that we're doing, it's a good space to provide insight, information, education, and be kind of like, the eyes on in the community, right? And speak for the people that can't show up and are not able to provide that information.
Ultimately bring other voices to the table that might not be heard initially without that extra support, that extra level of support.
That's exactly
that kind of leads me into my last question of what can we do to support our neighbors? What can we do to support the population that you're serving or to support your work?
Yeah, well, I think just being aware of the organizations in your community, just
the resources that are available to people.
Figure out like what causes are the ones that you are interested in and are compelled to help. And there's, I think everybody knows, you can donate like money, right? Monetary like donations. In many cases, a lot of the people that we serve, like it requires us to have like manpower. So sometimes we have opportunities for volunteering if you're able to volunteer your time. Donations too. I always tell people, if you have clothes to donate, if whenever you're doing your spring cleaning, instead of dropping off your clothes at just like a Goodwill. I didn't want to say a specific name, but I don't want to name drop. But anyways, we have clothing closets that are literally just running based on donation and being operated by people that are donating their time, their volunteers. So if you're able to donate some of those essential pieces that you're getting rid of from your home, donate those to the organizations and communities that may have higher needs. And so there's different ways, to be supportive of organizations like ours, or finding other ones that you like.
Specifically on the outreach side of things, I feel like there have been a lot of opportunities that I've had living in Kansas City where either I'm on a walk or I'm driving and there's somebody who has a sign who says that they're homeless, and anything helps. What does help based on your outreach experiences, your conversations with people who are like having these lived experiences, because I know I want to be able to support and help those people and navigate with them. So what can I provide in those situations? Just not knowing what is the right move,
I mean, I always tell people, just do whatever in your heart, whatever you want to do, whatever you feel like doing. Like, I mean,
when it says anything else is true.
Just do whatever you think is right. I think in those instances, there's no right or wrong. If you're giving with the intent to help that person, that's all that matters, right? But if you are wanting to do more than just like, oh, giving the person $10 or whatever, again, going back to just knowing your resources in the community. So then you can at least maybe have a maybe more intentional conversation, like, hey, do you know of like this organization down the street? They provide meals. Because you might give somebody like $10 or whatever, and then like they're still going to need somewhere to sleep. They're still going to get hungry the next day and the next day and the next day, right? And so like
and I think too, connecting people with those resources, like here at Crosslines, if people get connected to the kitchen, if people know about that, then our community resource navigators are able to meet with them in the kitchen. Like we go over there for lunch, we talk through things with people bring up whatever concerns that they're having. And it's a natural, like very natural connection point to additional resources. Which I think is a really sweet place to be.
For sure. And we have other resources besides just food. So if they were wanting to talk about, other things and other goals that could lead to housing, then that would be the opportunity to do that. Just like I would say, just become familiar with some of the community organizations that are doing that kind of work, and just be able to share those resources at that point whenever you're engaging with somebody.
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, thank you for all you're doing, for teaching us about outreach, what it means to work as a community resource navigator in this space. Thank you. All that Vanessa tapped into about street outreach really leads us toward and ties us together with a concept called functional zero, which I'll define for you really quick. Functional zero is a milestone which can be sustained that indicates a community has measurably solved homelessness for a population. When it's achieved, homelessness is rare and brief for that population in that community. So it's this goal that homelessness is rare and brief for a population in a community. And Kansas City has a strategic plan called Zero KC that's really focusing on this concept of functional zero, on making the experience of homelessness rare and brief. And it highlights that this is really important because living outside is dangerous, which sounds simple. But this plan for Zero KC, for reaching functional zero in Kansas City, really highlights the importance of street outreach, and specifically of this type of street outreach, of reaching out and connecting people with services. I found the San Diego homeless outreach worker best practices, and they describe outreach as the front door to an agency. And I think that is a great description of this type of outreach that Vanessa really dove into. So I think it's important that we really recognize how valuable this street outreach presence is in reaching the functional zero and connecting people who do not have that front door to an agency based on whatever barriers that they're experiencing, whether it be transportation, as we talked about, communication barriers, anything along these lines. But Vanessa didn't call us out and ask everyone who's listening or everyone who wants to be an involved community member to start doing outreach work. Outreach work is really hard. It takes commitment. It takes being able to really build rapport with people. And that is not what all of us are being called into, right? So we, as individuals who are supporting this functional zero kind of mission in Kansas City, are able to just dignify people. Something that Vanessa talks a lot about is the experience of going out on outreach and receiving that, people might not want to talk to you that day, or people might want to just be short and just have a conversation about life, their life, your life, and not really talk about resources. And that itself just really demonstrates, as a lot of this work does, that people are people. No matter what our housing status is, what our access to food looks like, access to transportation looks like, which language we speak, people are all people. And each person who is experiencing barriers to the systems that we have in place in our communities is a person. and we can dignify that experience, and we can really bring choice into that experience as much as possible, and yeah, make eye contact with people and encounter the people in our community, whether they be neighbors, colleagues, somebody who is experiencing homelessness, or somebody who you just encounter on the street for whatever reason. But to really look at the humanity of it and the personhood that exists within each of us, to see, okay, maybe I'm not supposed to be a street outreach worker, but I am a person, so is this one. But those were kind of my takeaways. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode.